Summer League debut. Suns taking on the Mavericks. Third overall pick Luka Doncic did not play for Dallas. He hasn't been cleared from his deal with Real Madrid in Spain. First offensive possession, the Mavericks double team Ayton. You figure, hey, let's start working on our double team. This is Summer League, but they're not going to let him do anything. He's drawing some respect already. Here's why. Later in the first, Shaquille Harrison up top. Ayton! Welcome to the NBA, at least Summer League. Showing why he was the #1 pick. First of potentially many to come. Here's Ayton on adjusting to the NBA game, at least Summer League.
There's some big guys down there, and, you know, got to get in the weight room. It was a big end. You know, a lot of guys are very talented and explosive. You always got to be alert on the floor.
He's been compared to David Robinson with a better jump shot. All right, Jalen Jones trying to dunk on Ayton, and he showed some defense there. Looks like he's been in the weight room already. And then back on offense, Ayton there for the tip in. I mean, he may be as good as advertised. 10 points, 8 rebounds in this. Ayton, not the only top 10 pick on the Suns. Remember, we made that deal for Mikal Bridges. We're so happy to have him in Philly, but he's dropping threes for Phoenix in a big way. His second in a row there. From the other corner, he was 4 for 5 on threes. That's his third in a row. Hit 4 threes in a row in the second half. Went 4 for 5 from three-point range. 14 points in all. Suns win it 92-85 in Ayton's Summer League debut.
With the third pick, the Dallas Mavericks ended up with Luka Doncic, who still has not had a live practice with his new team. There's the buyout to be cleared, the physical to pass, the contract to be signed. In the meantime, Doncic shoots and waits. Coach Carlisle said he could play in the Vegas Summer League. Could. What did Doncic say to our Doris Burke?
So you've played professional basketball since you were 16. You, in such a short time, Luke, have been able to achieve so much. What most excites you about your first opportunity, whenever that comes, whenever you get your release to play in the NBA?
I mean, you know, to play against all these superstars like LeBron, he's my favorite, so... But all the players, you know, like Harden, Chris Paul, everybody. There's so many good players, and I'm just excited to be here and to play against them.
All right, done talking about practice. Let's talk about a game. Magic. With
The game? We talking about the game?
We're talking about the game. Magic.
Not practice.
Well, actually, we're not really talking about the game. We're talking about one player within the game. The 6th overall pick, Mo Bamba, taking on a team wearing Nets jerseys. Bamba knocked down his first field goal. Rodney Purvis drops it to Bamba. Hey, Steve Clifford, he's the Magic coach. What do you think?
He's very bright. He's a good learner. He has a ton of questions, and he has the right attitude to make quick improvement and figure this game out quickly.
And apparently he's a really good chess player.
Really?
Bamba, yeah. A big-time chess player. Bamba caught that in the paint. That shot was blocked. Bamba then, it's all about adjustments. That's adjustable right there. That's a high percentage shot. That was like me and my Nerf hoop in my bedroom on my sister. In your face, Megan.
Bamba trying to block. You probably should keep that to yourself.
Come on, man. Bamba. Sees Theo Pinson driving. He's there for the block. He had 11.7 rebounds, and the Magic won a game.
Hey, if Colin Sexton is up to it, he could become the new face of the Cavaliers. See what he did against the Wizards in Vegas on Friday. He's wearing Kyrie Irving's old number 2, and he's wearing the new Kyrie 4s. I mean, they're going to send us some pairs?
It's a 12.
I'm an 11. Cleveland, new sheriff in town at Sexton. That's his only 3 attempt of the game, and he knocked it down for his first bucket. And then Sexton started heating up. A few possessions later, scores there in the paint. And then later, I mean, look, he's not shy. Then in the third, he drives, creates contact, can't get it to go, and so he came down a little funny there. Twisted his left ankle, so James Posey, who's coaching the Summer League team, decided to get him out. Hit 15 points and 7 boards, shot 4 for 12. Cavaliers win this one. Here's Ty Lue now, moving on from you-know-who.
I didn't expect it. You know, when I saw it, you know, I was shocked and, you know, heard a little bit about the decision. But like I said, you know, we talked and he said that, you know, I'm his favorite guy. He loved being coached by me. He loved the 4 seasons we had together. And this decision was solely on just a decision for himself and his family. And I can live with that.
Spurs still trying to figure out what to do about Kawhi Leonard. But Tony Parker's a free agent, and he was in control of his next move. He decided to move on after 17 years in San Antonio. Agreed to a 2-year deal worth $10 million with the Hornets. He'll back up Kemba Walker there and also play alongside his French national team partner, Nick Batum. No doubt that Parker will go down as one of the greatest Spurs of all time. 2007 Finals MVP, won 4 titles in San Antonio, leaves the franchise as their all-time leader in assists, as well as ranking in the top 4 in games played, field goals made, and points. Adrian Wojnarowski joins us now for more on Friday's free agent news. Adrian, what happened with Tony Parker in San Antonio?
You know, I think it felt to him like the run was over, that it had run its course with the Spurs. 2 years, $10 million with Charlotte. He'll play a significant role behind Kemba Walker there. James Borrego, the new coach in Charlotte, had been an assistant of his in San Antonio. San Antonio did want to keep him, but I think his role was diminished there, and he wants to play another. His goal is to play another 3 years, and he moved on.
All right, looks like one way or another, Carmelo Anthony is out in Oklahoma City, whether that's through trade or waivers or a buyout. What are the likely landing spots for him?
Well, there'll be a lot of contenders with interest, and you know, teams have to wait until he's free in Oklahoma City. But teams like Houston, who tried to trade for him last year, the Lakers with LeBron James there now, and the Miami Heat, Eric Spoelstra has always been a big fan of Carmelo Anthony, and Miami would have interest once Carmelo breaks loose, and that'll come here this summer.
The Kings tried to snatch away Zach LaVine, but the Bulls made an offer to keep him. Why is he so important to Chicago?
Yeah, the sources tell me that the Bulls are going to match that $78 million offer sheet. You know, he's a 23-year-old young talent. This is how restricted free agency works. You go get an offer sheet, and usually the team matches. But he was a centerpiece of that Jimmy Butler trade with Minnesota. This is a core player for Chicago's future. It was a no-brainer for them to match the offer sheet.
Yusuf Nurkic not going anywhere as well. What can you tell us about his deal?
He agreed to a 4-year, $48 million deal to stay with the Blazers. He was also a restricted free agent. There's a partial guarantee on that 4th year of that contract, I'm told.
Dwight Howard making his way from Charlotte to Brooklyn, and now apparently on the way to D.C. if he clears waivers. What's going on there?
Yeah, he'll clear waivers with that $20 million plus contract. There's no question about that. 2 years, $11 million in Washington. A little surprising. He got that 2nd year, a player option, so he can decide. But Washington really needed a center after trading Gortat to the Clippers, and Dwight Howard really needed a place to play. So they're going to be together, and you know, he'll have a chance here to prove that he can have some staying power in this league. He's been this is his 5th team in 4 years after Brooklyn bought him out.
All right, when it comes to NBA free agency, there's no asset like Adrian Wojnarowski. Thanks, Woj.
Thanks, Stan. Appreciate it.
Owns feverishly all day. We're into, I guess, restricted free agent time, right? And Portland with a new move tonight with Yusuf Nurkic.
Yeah, they agreed to a 4-year, $48 million deal, I'm told. Takes him off the market. And, you know, he's the starting center on what was the 3 seed in the Western Conference playoffs last year.
Solid player, right? I mean, 14 points, 9 rebounds per game. And Portland's one of those teams that reportedly, anyway, has been considering maybe what to do with the rest of that roster, right? At times?
Yeah, listen, they would love to improve themselves, but Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, that's the core of their team, and now Nurkic back. Zach Collins is the player to watch for them next year. He may make a big jump from 1st year to 2nd year.
Kid out of Gonzaga. Speaking of Zach's, the Kings signed Zach LaVine to a gigantic offer sheet, and then the Bulls had a decision to make. What are they thinking in Chicago?
Yeah, they made the decision quickly. They're going to match that offer sheet. They have until Sunday to do it. One interesting part of that 4-year, $78 million deal, it includes essentially a provision in there that will give the Bulls some protection financially if his if he re-injures that left knee that he had surgery on. So that was another reason for them to match that $78 million.
He averaged about 17 points per game last season, and again, that's a key piece that Chicago is keeping there in the Windy City. San Antonio, by all accounts, wanted to keep Tony Parker. I mean, he's a fixture there in San Antonio. 17 seasons with the Spurs, and yet he's on the move to Charlotte. Explain what went down there.
Yeah, not only is Tony Parker on the move to Charlotte, Kyle Anderson signed a four-year, $37 million offer sheet with Memphis tonight. The Spurs left 2 days to match it, but Tony Parker is gone. It had run its course for him in San Antonio. 2 years, $10 million with the Hornets. He'll have a prominent role behind Kemba Walker as their backup point guard. And the head coach in Charlotte now, James Borrego, he was with Tony in San Antonio, but he was ready to move on. He'll have his number retired in San Antonio. He's an iconic figure in that city.
You think about Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, all right there in the conversation there. Spurs, of course, trying to figure out what to do with Kawhi Leonard. Oklahoma City had a decision to make as it relates to Carmelo Anthony, and it appears they're moving on it. Right. At some point, either trying to trade him or with a buyout there, and there's going to be a lot of interest. Where is that interest expected to come from?
Well, Houston, tried to trade for him last year before Oklahoma City was able to land him. His relationship with Chris Paul will, I think, be a big part of that recruitment once he becomes available this summer. The Lakers with LeBron James. One team don't rule out the Miami Heat. Eric Spoelstra has always been a fan of Carmelo Anthony. They could certainly use his scoring. And if Carmelo Anthony wants a bigger role on a team, maybe a more prominent role, Miami could be a team that fits that profile for him.
A team with some defensive help there that maybe could mask some things where he lacks on the defensive end of the floor, and still at this point in his career, a capable scorer. Mm-hmm. Adrian Wojnarowski hanging with us here on SportsCenter. Thanks, Woj.
Thanks, Kev.
Woj with us here, and Woj reporting that the Thunder and Melo ending their brief partnership. So what more can you tell us about this?
Yeah, Oklahoma City will work with Carmelo Anthony and his agent over the course of this summer to try to figure out how they will exit this one-year relationship. The Thunder are trying now to work on trade scenarios. It's going to be difficult, a $28 million salary, but there are teams who would like to create more cap space for next summer. Melo has an expiring contract. They can use it in that way. Probably the most likely scenario is the NBA's stretch provision, which would allow them to get him off the cap this year, spread the money over 3 years on their cap, but that would save the Thunder in salary and luxury tax $107 million. Right now their payroll is over $300 million, and that's as much of this as the impetus of it is that kind of savings. And the role for Carmelo Anthony has changed from what he had signed up for there. He would have been de-emphasized this year. They want to play faster. It makes sense for both sides.
Is there a sense, Woj, of the market for Carmelo's services once this separation comes to pass?
Yeah, the market will be significant because now it's Carmelo on probably a veteran minimum deal. And whether it's in the starting lineup, whether it's coming off the bench on a great team, there's going to be a lot of suitors among contenders for Carmelo Anthony. And that number in Oklahoma City was not sustainable. I mean, to think, how many players in the league really would you be willing to spend $107 million on? So it makes sense for both sides, and his market will be significant. Now, this could play out over the course of the summer. They're going to work on trade scenarios first in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. They can get to that. They can do that stretch provision at any time later in the summer. So they'll try to work through it here. And I also think they'll work with Carmelo. They, for his really in a gesture probably, I think, of goodwill. They may not want this to stretch out so far to inhibit his opportunity to go jump on somewhere else. Yeah.
All right, makes sense. Thanks so much, Woj.
Thanks, guys.
Los Angeles has nearly 4 million people. And even if you're not a Lakers fan, you do understand the mystique. I mean, even Clipper Darrell, the most ride-or-die Clipper fan on earth, welcomed the King to town in purple and gold. But as LeBron James desperately searches to complete the legacy of a lifetime, our own Keith Olbermann is desperate to find something else, a native Angelino that happens to be on the sports scene in SoCal.
As the old joke went among us honorary native Angelinos, nobody's from L.A. The Lakers importing LeBron is just the continuation of a tradition older than the NBA itself. Kareem, Shaq, Wilt, Kobe, Mikan, even Magic, even the franchise itself, all got to LA by free agency or by trading players or by trading draft choices or by trading cities. Heck, the Lakers themselves are from out of town. They moved from Minneapolis in the land of 10,000 lakes, and they only got George Mikan, the original big man, because another franchise went bankrupt. 5 titles later, Mikan retired, and the Lakers utterly collapsed. They had the first draft choice in 1958 and took Elgin Baylor, and the number 2 in 1960, and they took Jerry West. And those are literally the only 2 Laker immortals who never, at least on paper, belonged to any other team. But West and Baylor lost the NBA Finals in 5 of the first 8 years in LA, and new owner Jack Kent Cooke decided he needed the modern Mikan.
He fires to Wilt, and Chamberlain dunks it.
Angry at Sixers management, flirting with jumping to the new rival ABA, Wilt Chamberlain was a risky trade proposition. Cooke took the risk. Wilt actually did leave for the ABA. 5 years, 4 Western Conference titles, and 1 NBA crown later. And the Lakers then again sank like a stone. After finishing last in the West in 75, owner Cooke did it again. Now he got the modern Wilt.
Abdul-Jabbar gets it in there.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar cost LA 4 former first-rounders led by Junior Bridgman. With Kareem and Magic, they won 5 championships. But Magic wasn't really theirs either. They got him indirectly through free agency. When the Lakers let Gail Goodrich go to the Jazz, they were awarded 4 draft choices, including a number 1 in 1979. In those days, the worst 2 teams flipped a coin to decide who drafted first. That coin flip was won by Laker assistant GM Chick Hearn, the Chick Hearn. So Magic went to LA and not Chicago.
Magic down the middle, just what I thought. A hook shot at 12. Good!
From Mikan to Magic to King James, this has just never stopped. James Worthy only got to LA by a traded draft pick and a coin flip, or he would have been a San Diego Clipper. In '96, the Charlotte Hornets picked Kobe, then traded him to the Lakers straight up for Vlade Divac. 3 weeks later, owner Jerry Buss went out at the modern Kareem, signing Shaq for 7 years and $120 million.
Can you dig it?
Pau Gasol got him in a trade. Lamar Odom trade. Luke Walton, now the coach. They got him 16 years ago as a future draft choice in a trade. Of course they have gone and gotten LeBron, the modern Shaq, who was himself the modern Kareem, who was the modern Wilt, who was the modern Mikan. Of course they brought LeBron to L.A.
If he wins a couple of chips, put it this way, if he gets a couple of those, they'll be putting a statue out in Staples Center for him, that's for sure.
L.A., where they brought the Dodgers from Brooklyn, where the NFL teams were brought in from Cleveland and Oakland and St. Louis and San Diego, where even the Clippers are originally from Buffalo. And now LeBron will be as much of a native Angelino as the palm trees. You do know they brought the palm trees in from out of town, right? And they brought the river to water the palm trees in from out of town. Because like the old joke used to go, nobody's from L.A.
LeBron isn't either, but he is the latest transplant, the latest all-time great to take his talents there. This is why they've won 16 titles. When he suits up and scores, 6 of the top 8 scorers in the history of the league, would have worn purple and gold. And that list, of course, includes Kareem, Kobe, and Shaq, just to name a few. You know, Stephen A. earlier told us, bridging together LeBron and Carmelo, he'd love to see Melo in Los Angeles. When he was traded to the Thunder last September, he was supposed to be the final piece of the OK3. But obviously, clearly did not work out that way. They are parting ways. The NBA's best insider made that evident earlier today on SportsCenter, and he joins us on this Friday night. Adrian, bottom line, take me through the options about how OKC and Carmelo could separate and perhaps save the franchise $100 million.
Well, the way to save that, it would be $107 million of salary and luxury tax to utilize the stretch and waive provision, which essentially eliminates him off the cap. They spread his money over 3 years, but it saves them almost $90 million in luxury tax. So they can do that. They're going to first try to trade him. They're going to find a team that might be trying to clear a lot of space next year. He's got almost a $29 million expiring contract that, if is cobbled together with a trade for a team, it might be a big chunk that they can use to get off when the summertime comes. That's going to be a harder way to go. But one way or another, he has played his final game in Oklahoma City, and he and his agent are going to work with the Thunder on figuring out how that separation will come, and then he'll be on the market.
Yeah, and you did say in your reporting earlier today that he will be in demand, if no other reason than the dangling carrot, the humongous expiring contract. One other guy that's had plenty of huge contracts is Dwight Howard. Buyout with the Nets complete after the trade from the Hornets. He's now set to sign a 2-year deal with the Wizards. So take me inside the risk-reward here for Washington.
A little bit surprising in Washington that he got the player option on the second year, which means he has a choice of whether he opts in. It's at $5+ million a year. But tremendous opportunity for Dwight to go to a playoff team and show right now again that not only can he be effective, but that he can fit into an environment, that he can be a positive force in a locker room with a team. There's a big hole in the middle in Washington after the Marcin Gortat trade to the Clippers. They need a center.
No question about it. There was a time where if Dwight Howard signed a deal, the NBA would stop. It shows you how different the league is just a few years later. Adrian, thank you.
Thanks, Zubin.
Guys, thanks. End of an era in San Antonio. As reported earlier, Tony Parker agreed to a 2-year, $10 million deal with Charlotte, bringing an end to his 17 seasons in San Antonio, which resulted in 4 championships for the Spurs. Our agent Wojnarowski on that earlier. And earlier today, Parker's longtime head coach Gregg Popovich released a statement saying, quote, "It's difficult to put into words how important Tony Parker has been to the Spurs franchise over the past 2 decades. From his first game in 2001 at age 19, TP has impressed and inspired us day after day, game after game, season after season with his passion, dedication, and desire. We are grateful to Tony for 17 years of truly amazing memories. While the 4 championships, 6 All-Star appearances, and 4 All-NBA selections highlights his resume, the biggest joy for me has been to have the pleasure of watching TP grow up before our eyes. All of us in the Spurs organization will miss having Tony in our program and wish him and his family the best as he continues his remarkable career in Charlotte."